Hi guys, welcome to Basement Supercar Build, the channel where we see if an average guy like me can design and build his own mid-engine car. This video will be a highlights video of the work that was finished this week. If you want to see the actual work take place, watch the full-length video for this week. And with that out of the way, let's get started on this week's video.
Well, this morning the first thing I'm going to do is wire up and try to get working the fuel gauge on the instrument cluster. That's the only gauge in the center cluster that is not reading or working, and it's simple really. It's two wires. It's just a ground and a sending signal wire that runs to a certain pin input on the Holley digital dash, and then I have to configure it in the software. But hopefully it won't be too complicated, and let's get started installing that and see if we can get it to work this morning. Well, I've started working on this wiring harness, and as you can see, it is a mess. It is an amazing amount of wires in a car, and I've already removed some of the wires several weeks ago. There will be a lot more of these wires getting deleted. I don't know how many, probably close to half of them. This entire engine harness here that plugged onto the engine and all the sensors, they will go away because I have the Holley engine management system here running the engine, so I don't need any of this with the exception of this black harness here. This is actually for the forward lights, headlights, and turn signals and side markers and things like that. I will need that. I understand basic wiring pretty easily as far as running a circuit. 12-volt circuit with switches and relays and things like that is not a problem for me. Where I don't have any concept of what's going on is when you start dealing with CAN bus and data systems transferring information from one to the other to function, and there is some of that in this system, but I'm just trying to get an idea of what circuits I can make function easily and which ones I'm going to have to do some kind of magic to get to bypass the CAN bus and the data logs or data transfers. But anyway, I made a little bit of progress tonight. You can see I've powered this up here with a battery. I've got it hooked to the positive two cables here in the floor, and then the wires strung out to several different grounds. There is a enormous amount of different ground locations, and I believe I have all of those jumpered and tied to ground. But this is going to be a challenge for me, but I guess we will just take it one simple circuit at a time until we get through all of them, and hopefully I can figure this all out. The headlights finally came in from Japan. It took a while to get here, but they are here, and I've set one of them up here just to try to get an idea of what this is going to look like. I am not sure yet these are the headlights I'm going to use. I'm still leaning towards the Corvette C7 headlights. I think I like the shape and size of those a little bit better, but let's see if I can give you a visual here. And I'm not sure exactly where these will sit, but that is close. The only thing I'm not sure about, they may actually slide further out to the edges, is this shape right here. The way it turns down so sharply kind of defines the nose of the car. I'm not quite sure how that would look. Even if I brought it out, the body would have to roll down and meet this and then come out and cover these radiators somehow, unless that slides quite a bit further forward. And if it comes forward, it needs to raise up because this piece here would interfere with the radiators. Continue to look at that and try to make a judgment call. Am I going to keep these or sell them and buy the Corvette lights? But in the meantime, I had parts come in to work on or fix, hopefully solve the cooling issue on my car. And I'm going to remove the water pump and drill and tap a hole for this fitting. And this is going to screw into the top of the water pump and be where the water comes into the pump from the header tank. That's what it really is. And this will keep a water tank above the water pump and keep water supplied to the water pump. I wanted to give you guys a couple of quick updates here. I've been experimenting with this wiring harness, and I couldn't get the tilt and telescopic motors to work on the steering column, and I think it's because I was missing a module that communicates with the motors, and I have ordered that module. It's going to be here in a couple of more days, and when it comes in I'll test it and see if that's what it needs to communicate back and forth so these motors on the steering column actually work. I've also been trying to figure out the lights, the new lights that came in. I can plug them in, turn the switch on the switches here that mount to the column. I have a spare set, and when I turn the lights on, the running lights come on only, but I can't get the low beam or high beam headlights or turn signals, any of that to work. And I'm sure it's also missing some kind of communication between another module. I just don't know exactly what yet. I'm still experimenting trying to find that out. And the wiring harness has like this connection here where this front lamp harness plugs into. There's a connection here for the lamp harness that'll plug into, and then there's another connection over here that are identical. This forward lamp harness will plug into either one, and I can get one lamp to work but not the other. And I was looking through the wiring schematics last night, and there is a separate harness that is identical that comes on some cars with options that are ordered. So I'm thinking maybe one of these harnesses came from a car that had more options. That's why it has two connectors, and this forward lamp harness that I have that only has one connector on it maybe came from a cheaper car, a base model car that had less options. But just not quite sure yet, so I'm still trying to figure that part out. In the meantime, the new header tank came in, and I have it mounted and plumbed in, so we are filling this tank full of water, and that should drain down and keep the water pump full. And then this is like an expansion or a header tank, and then this is the overflow tank. So when this gets hot or overfills, I'll have to drill and tap a fitting here on this side of the neck, and the water will come out and go into this expansion tank, overflow tank, and then that's where it'll pull the extra water from when it needs it back into the system. But that gives me a filling cap here, this radiator cap, to fill the system up. And I guess I'm going to go ahead and clean up my wiring harness mess and make a path to open the garage door. I'm going to roll the car out. I'm going to put this kit I bought into this tank here that pulls a vacuum on the system, and then try to fill this radiator tank again and see if we can get water to completely fill the system without any air bubbles. Fire the car up and see if it cools correctly or not. But let's go ahead and get started on that. Not sure if you can hear me or not, but I've been working on the cooling issue with the car, or the overheating issue, and I think I have solved the problem, at least temporarily. I've been outside. It's pretty warm today, and I've had the car sitting here idling for quite a while. Even drove it up the road and back a little ways a couple of times, and the thermostat is holding at about 215, 220 degrees. It's not getting any higher. And what I've done to solve this issue, let me cut the car off first. All right, what I've done to solve this issue, well, let's talk about what the issue is. The issue is because it is twin radiators, or two radiators. I have them plumbed in series, where it comes in the top of one, out the bottom, over into the top of the second one, and then out the bottom of the second one. And radiator systems work off of pressure on the top line and vacuum on the bottom line. And I just don't think there's enough pressure once this water, gravity feeds through this radiator. It's just not building enough pressure to feed the water across and back up to the top of the second radiator. just happened to think about this last night. So what I have done is I have changed the plumbing right now, and I just have it running through one radiator. I'm just going up into the top of this one and back out, and it seems to be working fine. So that test tells me that my theory was correct. So it leaves me two options to fix this. First option is come out to a T and split over to the top of both radiators, and then come out the bottom of both of them back to a T to go back to the engine. That's one option. The second option would be here on this line that's crossing from the bottom of one radiator to the top of the other, would be to put a pump, a water pump here in this line to help the flow to get it back up to the top of the second radiator. And that is a more expensive option, and to be honest, I don't think I'm going to need to do that. This flowing good like it is here and maintaining the temperature at these low RPMs and idle speeds, even driving it up the street, I didn't get over about 3,000 RPMs. I think if you was really getting on the car hard, one radiator would definitely not be enough to cool it. But I believe two will be great once I have these this routing redone somehow. I believe I'm going to look and see if I can buy two T's. It'd be 1.25 inches and an 1.5 inch T, and replumb these lines up here in the front end. I believe that will solve all of my issues, but it's good to know. I think I have found a solution for this, and it was kind of fun to get the car out here and run the engine some, and even drive it up and down the street a little bit more. I've also been working on the wiring harness. I've had to slide it out of the way, but had a part come in today. I need to hook the wiring harness back up and test and see if these steering column motors will work with this new part. I think it will, but I need to verify that. And also had another computer box come in today. I have got to take the time to plug that in and see if that'll help me solve the issue with the headlights. My running lights came in today. There's 4 of these, 2 in the rear and 2 in the front. I plugged all of them in. They light up just like the headlights, running lights light up. And all of that works good for the driving lights, but not for the low beam and high beam headlights or turn signals. None of that is working. So still have some work to do deciphering what's wrong there, but that'll be something I'll take care of next week, and probably finish rerouting these radiators next week once I get these T's ordered, or if they don't make these T's, I'll have to fabricate some, but I believe they would make these. But anyway, I think that's going to be about it for this week's video, and I'll see you guys again in 1 week.